the embryo, it is triploblastic, that is, it is covered by 3 layers: the ectoderm, the mesoderm and the endoderm. When the body is cut in a particular plane into 2 equal halves, they show bilateral symmetry. Hookworm means at the tip of their mouth they have hook, so that they can cling on to the body parts. Throughout the segments, the organs will repeat. So that is why it is called as metamerically segmented. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on chapter 4, that is Animal Kingdom. I'm Dr. Divya, Biology faculty, Vidyashram Pre-University College, Mysore, Temple of Excellence. So in the previous session, we had studied about the phylum Coelenterata, which is also called as Cnidaria. We also studied about phylum Ctenophora and also about phylum Platyhelminthes. So in today's session, we shall study about the other phylums that are present under the kingdom Animalia. So moving on to the phylum Ascalminthus. So Ascalminthus, they have a circular body. The worm looks round. So that is why they are also called as a roundworm. So those organisms or the animals that come under the phylum Ascalmintha, they have a body which is circular. So when you take a cross section, you can see that the body is round, it is circular, and hence it is also called as the roundworm. So these organisms, they are usually free living, means they do not need any substrate for living. They can move around freely and they are free living. And also they can be either aquatic, they can also be terrestrial, and they can also be parasitic on other plants and animals. So aquatic means they can either live in fresh water or they can live in marine environments. And terrestrial, they can live on the land. And apart from that, if they are terrestrial, they can also be parasitic. Parasitic means they live on other plants and animals wherein they cause diseases to that plants and animals. So they are also parasitic in plants and animals. And when we look at the level of organization, they have an organ system level of body organization. And the embryo, it is triploblastic, that is, it is covered by 3 layers: the ectoderm, the mesoderm and the endoderm. And also they are pseudocoelomates. So pseudocoelomates, they have a false coelom. So it looks like a cavity, that is, the cavity, it is not covered by a mesoglia. So I'll just briefly explain to you again what the pseudocoelomate is. So coelomate means the body cavity is covered at a stretch by the mesoderm. So this is the cavity. So body cavity will be at a stretch covered by the mesoderm. But if it is pseudocoelomate, the body cavity will not be covered by this. But in the body cavity, what will happen? Say for example, this is the body cavity. So this is a body cavity which is surrounded by the mesoderm. Here the mesoderm will be present in patches like this. They will not form a definite layer. It is a layer, that is mesoderm, but they will not form a definite layer. They will form patches. So that is why it is called as a false coelom or a pseudo. So pseudo means false. They are not actual coeloms, or they are false coelomate. So this is about pseudocoelomate. So next, moving on to the structure of the animal. So when the body is cut in a particular plane into 2 equal halves, they show bilateral symmetry. Means they form mirror images of one half is the mirror image of the other. That is what bilateral symmetry is. And they have alimentary canal. So this alimentary canal, it is always complete with a well-developed muscular pharynx. So alimentary canal is nothing but what we have: the mouth, then the pharynx, and all that forms the alimentary canal. They have a muscular pharynx. So this is a muscular pharynx. So the alimentary canal, so this is what the alimentary canal is. So the alimentary canal as a muscular pharynx, and apart from that, there is also an excretory tube that is present. So the name itself suggests excretory tube. It has something to do with the elimination of the waste products, or putting out the waste products or the waste food from the body of the organism. So an excretory tube that removes the body waste from the body cavity through an excretory pore. So what do they have? They, in the alimentary canal, they have the pharynx, then they have the excretory system. So in the excretory system, they have a excretory tube. So that excretory tube actually removes the waste products from the body through the anus. The waste products will be eliminated or it will be removed. So this is the general structure of the, so they here, as I showed you, you can see they are like they have show organ system level of organization, wherein they have the excretory system, then they have the alimentary canal and all that. So next, moving on to reproduction. So reproduction, I told you here the sexes are separate, means the male and the female organism is completely separate. So you can see here they are distinct. You can differentiate between them. So always the male is shorter than the female. So the female, they are long and the male are shorter. And the male, they have a pointed end, whereas the female, they have a blunt end. So the females are usually longer than the males, and the fertilization is always internal. So unlike the egg-laying organisms, in this case, we can say that unlike of the phylum that comes under the kingdom Animalia, wherein fertilization takes place externally, in this case, the fertilization is internal and the development, it can be direct, wherein what is direct development? The young ones or the progeny, they always resemble the adult parent, or sometimes an intermediate stage, maybe the formation of a larva can occur, that is the intermediate or a indirect development can also occur. So this is about the reproduction in the case of phylum Aschelminthus. So next, moving on to some of the examples. So the best example, I told you these organisms, that is the organisms that come under the kingdom Animalia, phylum Aschelminthus, they are parasitic, especially they cause diseases in human beings, plants as well as animals. So the best example is Ascaris, which is also called as roundworm. We have Ascaris, so it is also called as the roundworm. So then, why are they also called roundworm? Because if you take a cross section, they are circular in outline. So that is why. And also filarial worm. So filaria, that is, it is usually, you know about filaria, they are actually transported to the humans. How? Especially malaria. So malaria, how is it caused? It is caused by this particular filaria that is carried by the mosquitoes intestine. So when the mosquito comes and bites the human beings, the human being will also get infected because the mosquito will deliver this filarial worm into human beings. Therefore, the human beings will get malaria. So this is filaria, which is one of the disease that affects, that cause one of the organism that causes diseases in human beings through, and it enters the human body through a source, that is the mosquito. The mosquito plays like a vector here, wherein it carries the filaria into the human body. Next we have ancylostoma. So ancylostoma, which is also called as the hookworm. So this ancylostoma, it also causes diseases in human beings. So it is called as hookworm. Why? Because as the name itself suggests, hookworm means at the tip of their mouth they have hook, so that they can cling on to the body parts or to the cells. So that is why it is also called as hookworm. So these are some of the important examples of the phylum Aschelminthus. So next, moving on to the phylum Annelida. So Annelida, they're called as ringworms. So in Latin, actually annulus means like ring. So when you look at the body of phylum Annelida, it is like the rings, as if they are made up of rings. So that is why they are also called as ringworm. And in Latin, annulus means little ring. So these organisms are mainly their habitat. So where do they live? They live in water, that is they are aquatic. So they can live either in marine as well as in fresh water, and they can also live on the land, that is they can be terrestrial as well. And these organisms, they are free living, and sometimes free living means without depending on other organisms, they can live on their own, or sometimes they take the help of other organisms for their survival. That is, they become parasitic. So they can be free living or they can be parasitic. Next is they have organ system level of body organization. So annelids also, they have the organ. So annelids, they also have the organ system level of organization, and they are triploblastic. That is, the embryo is covered by 3 layers: the ectoderm, endoderm and the mesoderm, and they are coelomates. So remember the previous one wherein we talked about the phylum, Ascomynthus, they were pseudocoelomates, but annelids, they are coelomates. So next, moving on to the structure. So structure, they have bilateral symmetry. That is, if again here, if I draw if I cut them into an exact half, you can see here, they look exactly the mirror image of each other. That is, they are bilaterally symmetrical and they are metamerically segmented. So earthworm is also one of the important example which comes under the phylum Annelidas. So they are segmented. Can you see here? They are made up of segments like this. If you clearly see, they are made up of segments. So therefore, they are segmented. They are segmented. The body is segmented. That is, metamerical means here in sometimes the organ gets repeated. So if throughout the segments, the organs will repeat. So that is why it is called as metamerically segmented. So they are metamerically segmented and they have longitudinal and circular muscles. So these organisms, they move like this. The best example I can give is leech. So I've seen the leech, no, they just move, crawl like this. So for the frontward and the backward movement, they should have muscles that are circular in nature, which will help them move. So they have longitudinal and circular muscles, which actually helps them to locomate, that is, to move from one place to another. And also in some of the aquatic annelids, that is, those annelids which live in the marine or in the fresh water, for example, Nereis, they also have lateral appendages, that is, they have foot-like structures called as parapodia. So podia means feet. They have numerous feet-like structures. So can you see here? They have numerous feet-like structures. So these feet-like structures, it actually helps them to swim. So they have parapodia or feet-like structures which help them to swim because they are aquatic, they need to move in the water. So the structures called as, or lateral appendages called as the parapodia, which help them in swimming. And also they have a closed circulatory system. So the heart, it is a closed circulatory system. So means they have a what is that? Vein, proper vein and all that, blood vessels, vein and all that to carry the blood to different parts of the organ. They have a closed circulatory system. And their nephridia. So nephridia is nothing but kidney. So kidney is also called as nephridia. So the kidney helps in osmoregulation and in excretion. So osmoregulation is the movement, maintenance of the osmotic potential, that is the water level in the body and the external environment. So the kidneys help in osmoregulation and also the kidneys help in excretion, that is the elimination of the waste product. And apart from that, when we see the neural system, so they have a paired ganglia. So the ganglia, they are actually connected by lateral nerves. So to the lateral nerves, they are connected by a ventral cord, that is a cord that is present at the base of the animal, at the lower body surface of the animal. So to the ventral cord, they have a lot of nerve cells being connected, and also they have a paired ganglia that is connected by the lateral nerves to the double ventral nerve cord that is present. So that is why they have a nervous system, they have a circulatory system, all that, these organisms. Therefore, it means that they possess a organ system level of organization. So moving on further, here reproduction. So Nereis, I told you it is an aquatic form. We have taken the example of Nereis, the aquatic form, therefore they have parapodia which help them in swimming. When it comes to reproduction, Nereis, they are dioecious. That is, the male and the female organism is separate. They are dioecious. But in the case of earthworm and leech, they are monoecious. So earthworms and leech, in earthworm and leech, both the male and the female reproductive parts are present in the same organism. But in the case of, say for example, in leech, both the male and the female are present in the one organism itself. But in the case of Nereis, the male organism is different and the female organism is different. So that is the difference. That is nothing but dioecious. And reproduction is sexual. That is, by the fusion of the male and the female gamete, the reproduction will take place. Therefore, the reproduction is sexual in this particular case. Now, looking into some of the examples. So I told you Nereis is one of the best example, and Nereis is an aquatic form. They have parapodia. So I've taken the example of Nereis here. So Nereis, then earthworm. So Nereis, can you see here? They have parapodia, that is legs which help them in, or leg-like structures, podia, leg, which helps them to swim in the water. And next is earthworm. So metameric segmentation is best observed in earthworm. Can you see here? They have full segments in their body. They have metameric segmentation. And also leech is one of the best example, that is Hiruda Neria. So Nereis, Ferretima, which is also called as earthworm, then Hirudinaria, which is also called as the blood-sucking leech. So these are the examples under the phylum Annelids. So next, moving on to the phylum Arthropoda. So Arthropoda is the largest phylum, because you know that there are a lot of different varieties of insects that are present. So in the animal kingdom, the largest phylum is the arthropods. Then comes the mollusks. So second largest is mollusk and the first largest is the arthropod. So they are the largest phylum, and almost they comprises of only insects. So all the insects are placed under the phylum Arthropoda. So why have these insects been grouped together? What was the basis of classification? We shall see. So first is, when they looked at the level of organization, they found out that all the insects, they had the organ system level of organization. And also they found out they were triploblastic and they were coelomate. That is, they had a cavity and they had the three layers were present around the embryo, that is the ectoderm, endoderm and the mesoderm. So next, moving on to the body structure. Here they are bilaterally symmetrical. Again here they can be mirror images of each other. They are bilaterally symmetrical. Exactly, they look like the plane of each other. And it is segmented. So you can see segments. Can you see here? Segments. So they are segmented. They are segmented, and the body of arthropod is covered by a chitinous exoskeleton. So exoskeleton, that is the outside of the arthropod, is covered by a skeleton, and this exoskeleton is made up of chitin. Is made up of chitin. So far we had studied the other organisms. They had a skeleton, which is most of the other phylum, wherein they had a skeleton which was calcareous. In the case of insects, they have an exoskeleton which is made up of the chitin. So they have an exoskeleton which is made up of chitin. That is why it is chitinous exoskeleton. And the body is divided into head, thorax and abdomen. So we have the head, then thorax is the body part, thorax, abdomen. So they are divided into head, thorax and abdomen. And they also have jointed appendages, hence the name arthropod. So these are the jointed appendages that are present, hence they are also called as the arthropods. They have jointed appendage. They have jointed appendage. That is why they are also called as arthros, means joint, and poda means appendages. That is why these organisms, the phylum is also called as the arthropoda. Next, moving on to the respiratory organs. So when it comes to the respiratory organs, I told you they have an organ system level of organization. So therefore, they have the respiratory organ, they have the circulatory system, they have the sensory organs, and also the excretory organs and all that. So respiratory organs, they have gills, then they have book gills, and also they have book lungs, and also they have the tracheal system or the trachea. So they have different types of for respiration, they have gills, they have book gills, and also book lungs, which is the respiratory organ, and also they have a tracheal system. And when it comes to circulatory system, it is open type circulatory system. So previous, when talking about Ascalminthus, they had a closed type of circulatory system, right? But here the circulatory system in the case of arthropods, they are open type of circulatory system, and thus they have sensory organs. So I told you they also have organs which help them to sense. So they have antenna which helps them to sense. So antenna is one of the best sensory organ. So they have sensory organs like antenna, then they have compound eyes. They have eyes which are compound and simple. That is why the insects, their eyes act like lens, microscope lens or camera lens, because they have compound eyes. And they have statocyst, or statocysts are nothing but those organs that help the insects to balance. So insects, when they fly, they need to balance in the wind. For that, they have balancing organs called as statocysts being present. And apart from that, they have the wings which help them to fly, and also legs also sometimes they use the legs also as a sensory organ. So here, when it comes to the excretory system, they have Malpighian tubules, that is kidney. They have kidney for excretion, or Malpighian tubules, or nephridia. They have kidney for the excretion. So excretion takes place through special structures called as the Malpighian tubules. So next, moving on to the reproduction. So reproduction, they are usually dioecious. So again, the male and the female are present separately. They are dioecious. So therefore, the reproduction will be sexual reproduction. Okay, fertilization is usually internal. Here they are oviparous, that is they lay eggs, but the fertilization will take place internal, inside the body of the insect itself. So after the fertilization taking place, the eggs will be laid. So that is the difference here. So they are fertilization is external, they are oviparous, and the development may be direct or indirect. That is, direct development, the organism will directly develop into, the progeny will directly develop into an adult, or in other case, they may enter into an intermediate stage. For example, housefly, then all that, they form butterfly, they form larva, pupa, all that stages, right? So that is nothing but the indirect kind of development. So that is how. So this is about the oviparous. So you can see these insects, they lay the eggs. They are oviparous, that is they lay the eggs. So next, moving on to some of the examples. So insects, they are actually economically important. Why? Because we have apis, that is honeybees. So honeybees or apis, they actually help in the production of the honey. So the apis, that is the honeybee, they usually make honey which is used commercially for various cooking purposes and as a sweetener and all that. And this bombyx, that is silkworm. So bombyx is one of the best examples. So in silk industry, for manufacturing clothes and all that, they are used, that is bombyx. And lacifer, that is the lac insect. So they are also economically important. So these are the lac insects. They are also economically important. So you can see on the bark the gum-like structures that are there. It looks like gum, but they are all actually insects. So lac insects are also very important. And some insects, they act as vectors. I told you Anopheles. So these mosquitoes actually carries the remember, Ascalminthus, we had filarial worm. So filarial worm is actually carried by the Anopheles mosquito, therefore causing malaria. So Anopheles, then Culex mosquitoes, then Aedes mosquitoes, all these are some of the vectors that carry the other insects into the human body, therefore causing other worms or other parasitic organisms into the human body, therefore causing diseases like dengue. Then we have malaria and all that. Next is, they are gregarious pests. So locusts, So locust, most of you might have seen. So locust, then grasshopper. So locust is though that insect. Locust is that particular insect which actually looks like a leaf. So that insect, then grasshopper, and also they can also be a living fossil. Living fossil means these crabs, they have been present thousands of years ago itself. So that is why they are called as the living fossil. So these crabs, that is the king crab, can also be a living fossil. So the best examples are honeybee, silkworm, lac insect. Then we have the mosquitoes such as the Anopheles, the Culex and the Aedes mosquito. Then we have the locusta or the locust, which is something like a grasshopper. Then also we have the living fossil, that is Limulus, which is also called as the king crab. So these are few of the examples, but insects kingdom is very vast, and in the insect kingdom it is the largest phylum that is present in the kingdom, Animalia. So I hope you understood this session well. So in today's session we had studied about the kingdom Ascomynthus and the kingdom Ascomynthus, the annelids and the arthropods. So I hope you understood about this session very well. We shall meet again in the coming session wherein we'll discuss about the chordates, that is under the kingdom Animalia, the chordate. Chordate is also very vast under chordates. So we have the reptilia, the aves and all that comes under the chordate. So we'll study about that in the coming session. Thank you.